Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to today's panel discussion on multidisciplinary academic research and development. It is indeed an honor to have been invited Dr. Ampu to be the moderator for this power-packed panel. I was having a look at the resumes of our panelists and I was indeed absolutely honored to be moderating them. I also thank the Himalayan Garhwal University for organizing this virtual conference. Coming to the topic of this afternoon, in the era of increasing academic engagement, we are all here because we are engaging academically, the whole idea is to include many disciplines under one subject. And this is becoming increasingly more and more important to understand the nuances of multidisciplinary research to engage with all academia. Multidisciplinary research, as we understand in simple layman's term, is pursuit of truth with the help of different specializations, which is aimed at getting to understand the common purpose with the help of other disciplines. In this world, particularly developing countries ours, we are using multidisciplinary approach in research to solve our problems, because the problems that we have in our society and economy needs inputs from all disciplines. It is indeed that we understand that the approach to research now has to be applied and action-oriented or policy-oriented. The first on a list of panelists to speak is our honorable panelist, Dr. Nazrul Islam, who will give us his perspective on the topic. I will be reading a little bit about Dr. Islam for all of you to understand his achievements. Professor Islam has more than 25 years of teaching and research experience in the fields of management and international business. He worked as a dean for more than 10 years in leading private universities and head of discipline of business administration of Khulna University, Bangladesh. He has taught as a co-faculty member in leading private and public universities. He has achieved Bangladesh Education Leadership Award in 2017 and Education Leadership Award in 2018. He has worked as a consultant of Microcredit Regulatory Authority of Bangladesh, a published author of 57 articles in international referred journals. I present to you Dr. Nazrul Islam, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I heard that in this conference, PhD students are present, so I thought that I will discuss a very specific topic of research and qualitative research issue. And I'm just going to raise those issues in this conference. Honorable Chairman, International Conference on Multidisciplinary Academic Research and Development, IMARD 2021, respected Pro-Vice Chancellor, Himalayan Garhwal University, Uttarakhand, India, Professor Ampu Harikrishnan, respected moderator, Ms. Rupamala Singh, Heritage Academy, Uttarakhand, India, eminent panelists, distinguished colleagues, guest participants, good afternoon to all of you. It is an honor and privilege for me to welcome you to this international conference on multidisciplinary academic research and development, which has been jointly organized by Himalayan Garhwal University, Uttarakhand, and National Productivity Council, New Delhi of India. I wish to extend my deep appreciation to the IMARD 2021 authority for inviting me to share my thoughts as a panel discussion on some critical issues in qualitative research methods with the esteemed professors, panelists, experts, and the professionals. I thank and welcome the participants of this international webinar who will share their knowledge and experience with their friends and colleagues and ensure an outcome that will be useful for conducting future research for the socio-economic development of their countries. Dear colleagues, qualitative research has a history in sociology and has been used within it for as long as the field has existed. This kind of research has long appealed to social scientists because it allows the researchers to investigate the meanings people attribute to their behaviors, actions, and interactions with others. Qualitative research is very important in educational research as it addresses the how and why research questions and enables deeper understanding of experiences, phenomena, and the research context. It also allows researchers to ask questions that cannot be easily put into numbers to understand human experience. The main purpose of this research is to understand how the participants derive meaning from their surroundings and how their meaning influences their behaviors. It is such a research that develops critical thinking skills, gives knowledge and learning, and provides information that can be applied in our daily life too. More specifically, qualitative research enables researchers to make sense of reality, to describe and explain the social world, and to develop explanatory models and theories. It is the primary means by which the theoretical foundations of social sciences are constructed or re-examined. This type of research is used for generating new product ideas in business, investigating current or potential product service brand positioning, market resistance and weaknesses of products and brands, and understanding the dynamics of purchase decisions of the customers. On the other hand, the purpose of quantitative research is to attain greater knowledge and understanding of the social world. Researchers use quantitative research methods to observe situations or events that affect the people. Quantitative research basically produces objective data that can be clearly communicated through statistics and numbers, which is not possible in qualitative research. Science begins with observations, which is qualitative research, and the observations lay the theoretical foundation and determine the conceptual parameters of the discipline. It is on this foundation that the more clearly defined quantitative methods test and refine a growing body of knowledge. The goals of qualitative research are, however, concerned with the development of theory, description, explanation, and understanding rather than precise testing of hypotheses. Dear participants, qualitative research is an in-depth research used a range of techniques and aims to understand why people think, feel, and behave in the way that they do. In the case of qualitative interviewing, samples tend to be very small because the aim is to generate concepts or strategies. For example, an appreciation of processes that govern groups or the institutions. This kind of can pretty much must be adapted to research context that is not about knowing how many. The benefits of this are that we do not start with a hypothesis here in qualitative research that needs to be tested. Rather, it is an open-ended approach that can be adapted and changed while the research is ongoing that enhances the quality of data and insights generated. Dear participants, qualitative research is a type of scientific research that consists of an investigation that seeks answers to a question, systematically uses a predefined set of procedures to answer the question, collects evidence, findings that were not determined in advance, and produces findings that are applicable beyond the immediate boundaries of the research study. Qualitative research also seeks to understand a research problem from the perspectives of the local population it involves. This research is especially effective in obtaining culturally specific information about the values, opinions, behaviors, and social context of a particular population. Therefore, qualitative research can be used to understand how an individual subjectively perceives and gives meaning to their social reality. It is a form of inquiry that analyzes information conveyed through language and behavior in natural setting. Dear colleagues, as I said that the qualitative research is very important in educational research. It allows the researcher to develop explanatory models and theories. The main strength of this kind of research is its ability to provide complex textual description of how people experience a research issue. It provides information about the human side of an issue that is often contradictory behaviors, beliefs, opinions, emotions, and relationships of the individuals. Qualitative research is used to capture expressive information, not conveyed in quantitative data about beliefs, values, feelings, and emotions that underlie people's behavior. Qualitative research approach is a general way of thinking about conducting qualitative research. It describes either explicitly or implicitly the purpose of qualitative research, the role of the researcher, the stages of research, and the method of data analysis. Numbers like national identification number, phone number, etc., however, regarded as qualitative data because they are categorical and unique to one individual. For example, a qualitative data includes sex, for example, male, female, name, state of origin or citizen, etc. Dear colleagues, qualitative research methods are effective in identifying intangible factors such as social norms, socioeconomic status, gender roles, ethnicity, and religion, whose role in the research issue may not be readily apparent. When this research method is used along with quantitative method, it can help the researchers to interpret and better understand the complex reality of a given situation and the implications of quantitative data. Although findings from qualitative data can often be extended to people with characteristics similar to those in the study population, gaining a rich and complex understanding of a specific social context typically takes precedence over eliciting data that can be generalized to other geographical areas of populations. In this sense, qualitative research differs slightly from scientific research in general. Dear participants, there are many different research methods that come under the rubric of qualitative research. All of you know, and many of these are undergoing constant innovation. The most common qualitative research methods are participant observation, in-depth interviews, and focus groups. These type of data, the types of data these three qualitative methods generate are, for example, field notes, or audio or video recording, and the transcripts. Each method is particularly suited for obtaining a particular or a specific type of data, such as participant observation is appropriate for collecting data on naturally occurring behaviors in their usual context. In-depth interviews are optimal for collecting data on individuals' personal histories, perspectives, and experiences, particularly when sensitive topics are being explored. And focus groups are effective in eliciting data on the cultural norms of a group and in generating broad overviews of issues of concern to the cultural groups or subgroups represented. Dear PhD students are here, so I am going to be a little depth in these three types of qualitative research methods. Observation. Observation is the basic source of human knowledge, and in ethnography, observation is done for all kinds of actions, behaviors, and objects. And observation can be done of places, objects, persons, and activities. And it is a useful method of research under some conditions, such as where there is no adequate native language exists to explain a process of phenomena or object, where there is no clear generalized pattern of behavior, no regularities, where there is an inability to verbalize certain kinds of behavior, where there is an inability to report on behavior considered not done, where there is inability to report because of conflict situations, and where there is remembering or inability to generalize. In in-depth research, interview is another type of qualitative research. The purpose of this type of method is to understand the underlying motivations, beliefs, attitudes, and feelings of respondents on a particular subject. In-depth interviews varies from informal conversations to more formal interviews, which may be unstructured, semi-structured, or structured. It is an occasion when someone is asked detailed questions, for example, about the products or services that they buy or would like to buy. Depth interviews are a useful type of qualitative market research and are often to be preferred to focus groups. An in-depth interview is traditionally conducted in a person or over the telephone, with the researcher asking questions of an individual respondent. Depending on the subject matter and context, in-depth interview may require 30 to 60 minutes time. Regarding focus group discussion, FGD, we all use this type of research method under qualitative research. Is another type of research method in the social sciences, with a particular emphasis and application in the developmental program. FGDs are a predetermined semi-structured interview led by a skilled moderator. So moderator asks broad questions to elicit responses and generate discussion among the participants. The moderator's goal is to generate the maximum amount of discussion and opinions within a given time period. For FGD, it is important to take time to carefully plan the questions, because poor worded, biased, or awkward questions can derail FGD and spoil the quality of data. This FGD also may continue for 60 to 90 minutes. If the FGD is shorter than 60 minutes, it is often difficult to fully explore the discussion topic. Or if the FGD is longer than 90 minutes, the discussion can become unproductive and the discussion start to impose on participants' time. However, it is important to realize that there are several limitations of FGD method. For example, since FGD data is qualitative, it cannot be necessarily generalizable to the population. So this is because qualitative data is often context specific. Second, facilitators must ensure that their bias is not evident. Otherwise, it will go around the track of the conversation. They must also be active in ensuring that active participants do not overpower subdued participants during the discussions. Dear participants, there are some limitations of these qualitative research methods. The first one is the soundness of qualitative methodology is very important. It's the most urgent challenge for those researchers interested in the growth of quality inquiry. Soundness has to do with the certainty of the qualitative results. It also has to do with the acceptability of the qualitative approach, and the softness of the method. Another limitation is reliability and validity also continue to be important in qualitative research. Reliability, validity are essentially concerns regarding quality of data and appropriateness of methods used in the research. These are concerns regarding trustworthiness, rigor and quality of data and research findings. In qualitative research, one way of enhancing reliability and validity is through triangulation. Triangulation, use of multiple methods, where researchers try to obtain the same data or information using multiple methods and from multiple sources. Another limitation is phase validity. Since the data is collected directly by the researcher and not by an assistant or investigator, thick description ensures detail as well as context of a piece of information for cross-checking confirmation. Possibility of confirming the accuracy and correctness of data on the spot is high in this type of research. Another limitation is the ethics. Ethics is an issue in qualitative research. A research ethics deals primarily with the interaction between researchers and the people they study. Professional ethics deals with additional issues such as collaborative relationships among researchers, mentoring relationships, intellectual property, fabrication of data, and plagiarism, among others. Most professional organizations of the world, such as the American Anthropology Association, the Society for Applied Anthropology, the American Sociological Association, and the American Public Association, have developed broad statements of professional ethics that are easily accessible via the internet. Dear friends, qualitative research is frequently used in academic research, but it is also essential for the voluntary and non-profit sector, as well as more commercial applications. It can also help us understand the motivations and perspectives of clients or customers while they come to us and what they need. It can be used to pilot ideas and develop qualitative research and evaluation, generate original insights, and generate and tell amazing stories about what we do. It can also be used to understand the cognitive and emotional or affective landscape of the society, institutions, or urban context, for example, through the use of psychogeographical approaches. Statistics remain the gold standard of social and market research, and it's easy to see why policymakers and business want to be able to track universal trends in order to target the wide cross-section of society. We live in a society where mass or macro subjectivities no longer entirely hold, nor are open seems to operate on the basis of ever-changing micro-subjectivities, often geographically influenced and certainly dictated by the ever-changing tides of the social media. This creates challenges for the social and market researchers. Qualitative research methods are exactly the kinds of approaches that could have been utilized to understand people's subjectivities, as well as shed a critical spotlight on the processes by which data is collected. Dear colleagues, I hope that these discussions will certainly provoke intellectuals to stimulate qualitative research, which will uncover the root cause of the socio-economic problems of our societies. I also hope that this conference will be able to provide for conducting multidisciplinary academic research for sustainable economic development, irrespective of cultures, by overcoming the severe impact of COVID-19 in South Asian region. You are all the academics here present, researchers, leaders, policymakers, mentors, advisors, motivators in the socio-economic development process of your country, and I am fully confident that your knowledge, experience, and expertise will provide important insights on the understanding that whatever the problem exists can be solved by conducting research, and that is qualitative and quantitative research. I would like to conclude by saying that the conference will help us to provide with the ideas of multidisciplinary academic research methods and techniques for the sustainable socio-economic development of the economy and the standard of living of the people in the South Asian region of the world. With this, I conclude here. Thank you all. If you have any question, then we can address. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Islam.
Thank you.
Dr. Islam has very aptly explained to us how qualitative research can play a very, very determining role in this day where multidisciplinary approach is becoming increasingly more important. If anybody has any question that you want to direct to Dr. Islam, you can write it down in the message board and we will take the questions at the end session. Am I right, Dr. Ampu?
Yes, ma'am, you are correct. We can proceed in that way. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Anybody who wants to ask any question, please put it in our message board so that we can use the questions at the end of the session and direct them to the speakers. Sir, your presentation was absolutely brilliant and it would be very, very beneficial for research scholars to understand how they can use techniques to conduct their research. We have a few questions with us, but they are from two gentlemen, Professor JK and Dr. Sridhara Joyce. All the questions are from them, from the both of them. The first set of questions are for Dr. Islam, our first speaker. Professor JK, I would like you to say your question yourself. He wants to ask you about data, changing data to make use in research. But we would request Professor JK to please ask your question yourself. It will increase the interactivity of the session. Professor JK, are you there?
I think he has written his question here. How does changing data make use of research? This question is here.
Yes.
So I can answer.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, in qualitative research methods, it is not in fact static. It is also these methods also changing. There are methods with the same level that may appear in different forms, even when conducting the research by the same researcher. And the reasons are related to, for example, the advancement of equipments that is helping us to change in the data collection and also the analysis. It is also because of development of our knowledge base and perspectives. Those are also changed. And societal condition also can be another reason. And methodological reason change. And but the qualitative research is still important because it gives it is the preliminary research of starting a new research, because it gives the background information. So that is why you call it sometimes exploratory research. When the problem is completely unknown to us, we have no idea about the problem, then we go for exploratory research and qualitative research to have an idea about the nature of the problem. And that can help us to go for the original research and quantitative research. So due to the change in data, database, and the quality of data and the machines and the techniques, we cannot say that the demand or need of this research is also declining. But we see that the need of this research is not what should I say, declining at all, because it gives us the backup knowledge. It gives us the preliminary knowledge of the nature of the problem. It gives us, so that it always helps us to go for the real research and to uncover the realities.
Can I add something, ma'am? Can I add something in this regard?
Absolutely, sir.
Actually, previously, I love to work with the secondary data, actually, model building and by using the sophisticated tools. But during the days from last 4-5 years, I am moved towards the mixed method, actually, not only the secondary data, the qualitative research I follow. Because actually, I am from the finance background, accounting background, so there are a lot of problems with our emotions as well. Then the psychology is over. So there are a lot of influences by the investing behavior. So not only the traditional models of the finance is really work nowadays. That's why I prefer not only the secondary data. By having the secondary data, I want to justify it, or I want to get a confirm from the qualitative data also, from the interview also. So nowadays, actually, in a multidisciplinary research, I think the qualitative data is also playing the important role in our world. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. The next question, again for Dr. Islam, is from Dr. Sridhara about how qualitative research and quantitative research are linked. Am I right, sir? Would you like to ask your question yourself?
Yes. Thank you, madam. My question is, qualitative research is giving way for the quantitative research in the later. First, the qualitative research had to take up,
right,
and the theory had to be framed, and to test the theories, then a quantitative research will take place and test those theories. Is it? I am right, sir?
You are very correct. Yeah, you are very correct. You are
that
very
is
correct. So it is the preliminary research, and it can help us to have a preliminary idea and then develop the model and then test it through quantitative research.
Okay. Thank you.
You're right, Dr.
Yes.
Surendra Joyce.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The next question is for Dr. Sharma, and that's again from Dr. Sridhara Joyce, who's been a very active member of our audience, and he wants to understand a little about academic career, as far as I could understand.
Yeah.
Could you repeat
Yes.
your question, sir?
Yes. What is the position of multidisciplinary research in academic career is my question, because most of the times when the academic career as far teaching profession is concerned, whenever their employment and promotion, other things are considered, the person who had done research in the same field of the subject only will be considered most of the times. If the research is done in other area than his post-graduation or the area where he works, normally that will not add to his career. It is one of the disadvantage, and it is a demotivating factor for the multidisciplinary research. That is what I wanted to just understand, how it can be sorted out.
Very good question. I think Arushi madam have given a little bit
Little bit she had
little bit
mentioned
answer on
that.
this topic. Actually, the government of India is also thinking about the same thing. So they have introduced national education policy. The main aim of national education policy and UGC is to focus on MERU. MERU. It is the short form of multidisciplinary studies and research universities. To develop the career and research project opportunities in multidisciplinary research, the UGC of India is taking very good steps, and it will take about 5 to 10 years to execute all these things and to get away from the harassment of not getting the jobs in multidisciplinary research related activities and other things. But if we think about certain courses in India or in the world, just like one of them is biotechnology. Biotechnology is the combination of, I think, biology and technology. So it is also multidisciplinary course which has so many perspectives in different areas. So collaborating all these things also in social sectors, in management and combining management with other things like social studies and even in musical things, we are combining different instruments and we are relating them with the technological advances. So there is a better future for multidisciplinary research in the coming years. I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, that is what at present there is no much clarity. That is what I mean.
No
There are
much
lot of
clarity.
I would like to add something, Rupmala ma'am. Just I would like to add the same situation, Dr. Sridhara Joyce, the same situation we faced in hotel management couple of years before. See, hospitality and tourism management may be around say 15 to 20 years old. In the initial years, we had practicing managers from the hotel industry to teach. Then in the university setup, what happened was that all management teachers, whether it is from HR, marketing or finance, they stepped into as hotel management teachers and they were doing. 15 years down the lane, now in India, we have a certain number of good PhDs who are exclusively specialized in hotel management. Now, I'll tell you some of the examples. I myself have been a co-supervisor for some of the hotel management PhD students. Though by practice I'm a hotel management faculty, my qualifications are in HR. So I myself has acted as a co-supervisor. So hotel management profession, you can say you have core hotel management, that is researchers who have done PhD in food and beverage production, service, front office management, restroom service management, and so on. So this is a point number one. That is an issue that is we all are facing. Dr. Sridhara Joyce is correct. Now there are some exceptions. See, the reason why we have Indian School of Business. I have been to that campus couple of times. I have met a philosophy professor. I have met a gerontology professor. I have met, you name it, whatever I have studied in my school, and I have seen that. I have seen those professors who have made an impact. So for higher education institution, you take the case of this IMARC conference. Very specifically, we did not keep a theme because we want to be accommodative and we want to let the expert speakers to speak from their area. So this is an issue, the application of interdisciplinary research. One example, again I will give you, that is a very problematic. Commerce PhD holders can come and teach in management side, whereas management PhD holders cannot teach in commerce. So this is another a very crossroad junction where different vehicles are coming and crashing. Now we have institutions like ISB, at least some model which we can look forward to and do it. So I think the question is very valid. Rupmala ma'am, I hope I have not taken much time. Over to you.
No, you are right, sir. You are more clear. Yeah,
We have
the
all the
confusion
time.
still persists.
We have the next question for Dr. Arushi from Professor JK, who's unfortunately not with us. So I'll read out his question. He's asked, if there is overlap in research, it may divert on either side rather than keeping to the discipline. Is that true? And how do you handle the problem?
Yeah, this is a really nice and very appropriate question when we are talking of multidisciplinary research, because it's very important to keep the research objectives in mind first. Which is the core domain or the core area of research. However, what happens is that many times the research that started, suppose for example, was talking about, just to give you an example, organizational effectiveness. Talking of organizational effectiveness in a particular PSU or an organization where it was being conducted, there were these people from different backgrounds, and finally the tech people are, more active and really, really good with their research, and most of the recommendations that come out are not on the other parts, but only on the tech side of that organization, that any initiatives in technology are going to help this organization to a great extent. So that is what is happening with recent research at this time, and we've seen it abundantly happening in our organizations also. So like Dr. Ampu said, we have a lot of faculty from very diverse backgrounds, and like somebody could not even think of it, but if we are looking at a management or an organization behavior faculty, we might get somebody who specializes exclusively in emotional intelligence. So, but then how do you balance this is the question, and you have to, and all the researchers there have to keep the problem statement in mind. And when we are giving recommendations, they have to be balanced. They cannot be dominated by one aspect or one discipline in particular, and then only this entire research will be fruitful.
Thank you so much. There's another question for you, ma'am, and that is from Dr. Sridhara. He's asked how to address the scientific prejudices and bias in the research. Dr. Sridhara, if you would want to explain your question a little more.
Yeah, because when we take up the research, that is what I observed, we have a frame, and research means it had to go according to the frame only. Already we have fixed certain things. When we want to do some research, first they say you go for research review of literature. Then they say what is your problem. Then they say you have some hypothesis. Then they say you should have data. Then they say data should be whether that data is sufficient or not. And this is the way we want the research to be conducted. We already say to the person, you have to go in this way only. There is no freedom. We forget about the Darshanic views and intuitive mind. We forget about that, and we say we have prepared our own frame, and within that only we want to fly over and we want to swim over, and we say we will find something. This is what I say. Research community most of the times they have their own bias. There is no scope for thinking behind.
Completely agree, and you have answered your own question by explaining it actually. Completely agree by this. Actually, this is a huge problem. Prejudices and bias in itself is a topic that we talk about extensively in behavioral science at this time. And that is why when I referred just very recently to the behavioral aspects in research, I mentioned this even in the presentation, it came somewhere.
When funded research is there, normally the funder wants certain specific things.
Yeah.
Then what is the purpose of research? It should be unfair. It should be non-prejudicial.
No, but if it is a funded research, I'm not very sure if...
not always, of course.
Yeah, there is not always a clear direction.
We can't generalize it. We can't generalize it.
What is important is, I think, just when we began this discussion right in the beginning, the presenter talked about the ethics in research. So something that is very important and has to be emphasized to a great extent. In India, it's not that I am getting biased to the West or in some way, but still, if you look at the ethical protocols of research in the West, there is still a lot of difference, and we have to. So our country is very good in a lot of ways, but there are things that we can learn from any other place. And one of these things is the research ethics, which I have been emphasizing to a great extent. Our institutions, and probably Dr. Ampu is sitting here, maybe, he can look at it. Hardly any institution in the country, except the IITs, the IIPs, the IIMs, will have an institutional review board for primary research and human subject research. Hardly. That's what I'm saying. If you look at percentages, it would be minimal. Not even 1% of institutions in India will have institutional review boards, IRB that we call, for research where we are talking to human subjects. So I myself, after joining Indian School of Business, took a complete, course and then finally got certification for ethical research so that I can interact with primary subjects as a mandate. This certification is there for 3 years, valid for 3 years. But I don't know how many institutions in the country even know about it, and it's not tough. So we have to go this route where we are talking about ethical research, where we are not taking funds with a purpose in mind, and where the biases are as minimal as possible.
So we try to minimize as much as possible. That is what ultimately we may not altogether avoid it.
That's see, I'm being practical.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arushi. Does anybody in the audience have any more questions? I don't think so, because we haven't had any more messages. Thank you so much, dear panelists. It was really, really wonderful. And I hope the research scholars attending the meeting have also got advantage of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rumala ma'am.
Definitely.
It's echoing back. So I don't know whether you can hear me. The three main words that come out of this today's discussion are interaction, integration, and transfer. Let's keep the good work going. Thank you so much, Dr. Ampu and Himalayan Garhwal University, to give us all this wonderful opportunity. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you all for being a part of this wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Rumala ma'am.
Dr. Ampu.
I'll just take a few minutes for vote of thanks. So it was a wonderful panel discussion. Now, without any bias towards the female population, it's generally said people coming from Kerala, we have a bias towards the female population. But there is nothing like that. So without any prejudice or bias, I hope all my distinguished participants know how talented and how effective as a moderator is Ma'am Rumala. If you meet and interact with her, it is even more interesting because such diversified area of knowledge, it is really appreciable. So I would like to, on behalf of Himalayan Garhwal University, I'd like to thank Ma'am Rumala Singh for having taken this effort to study the panelists' biodata and having a thorough research and presenting it very well. To the panelists, I'm thankful to all of you. I'm thankful to all of you, Professor Nazrul Islam, who is a renowned figure in Bangladesh, to Professor Jitendra Dangol, Professor Dr. Parikshit Sharma, and Dr. Arushi Jain. In my introductory speech, I was telling the first accredited management teacher about Dr. Arushi Jain as the first accredited management teacher of Himachal Pradesh. And our next session chair, in fact, she was our doctoral committee expert for my students. And that session where the insights given, one of the scholars, she went on to become an Asian research scholar. So these are the great minds we have. One more thing I would like to add, Indian Institute of Technology Delhi has opened up its research facilities on payment of a nominal fee to whoever it is. It's in management, engineering, with the purpose of promoting multidisciplinary academic research. So thank you, Rumala ma'am. Thank you all the panelists. And I'm sorry, I just took a track from our MCs. So over to you, MC, Ayushi and Amit.
Thank you, sir.